Just 3 points before we move into episode 16. First one being a big thank you to everybody that has shown their support for the podcast and for everybody that's been listening to each of the episodes up to now. Very grateful for all the messages and texts that I've been getting. And I've also been speaking to the guests that have spoken on the podcast and shared their stories and their advice and tips. And they too have been overwhelmed with positive messages of thanks and support. So a heartfelt thank you from both myself and everybody that's been on the podcast to date. Second thing is that moving forward, there's going to be some changes to the recording platform that I use, which means that there's going to be really no music. It's probably not a big loss. The music side of it was something that I wanted to incorporate with the rock music Iron Maiden to Iron Man type thing, and I thought it would be a sort of a catchy wee thing to be able to introduce and maybe break up some of the dialogues, that it wasn't as boring potentially. Although having said that, I have had messages contrary to that saying, why do you even put the songs in, because they'd be listening away to the chat and then all of a sudden it's interrupted with Bruce Dickinson screaming his head off at the front of an Iron Maiden tune. So moving forward, there isn't going to be any songs. There's not much I can do about that, but just to give you a heads up on that. So if you want to listen to music, you do so at your own time and at your own pleasure. The last thing and third thing that I wanted to mention was just a big thank you to JJ Quinn. JJ has very kindly created a wee jingle for me to use now in the podcast. Quite an open brief I give him. I just said I wanted Iron Maiden and Iron Man. I wanted those two things kind of fused or mashed together in some way to make a wee short jingle just to introduce each of the podcasts. So he has done that very successfully, and I'm absolutely delighted with the finished product. So let's get on with it. Here comes episode 16. Enjoy.
You are an Iron Man!
Susan O'Neill, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Susan, I have met you on a number of occasions, both at events and up at Loch Macquarie when you've been up doing a wee bit of swimming and training and that. And you're a well-known face, I suppose, within the Try Limits Club. I've often seen you standing on the sideline, roaring and shouting and cheering people on, and it's always nice to see you at these events. What are you training for at the minute, or what's in the pipeline for you?
This year, I'm just laughing at the thought of having to see my face when you're going through pain at a race. Apologies for that. This year, I've taken it a bit handier. No big events or races. Just trying to take it a wee bit easier than I have done for the first few years. So this year, the next race will be a 50k ultra in the Mourne Mountains. That's me taking it easier.
That's what I was going to say. You started off saying you're going to be taking it a bit handier this year, but 50k ultra.
It's not till October, so if anybody's done the Garmin Skyline in the past, they'll know how good of an event it is. And so they've been taken over by a new company. It hasn't run for the last year or two, so when I seen it coming back onto the race scene, it's the first one that made me, do you know when you have that wee heart palpitation and you're like, oh, I have to do that. And then when I went into it, they were like, oh, by the way, we have added an ultra version this year. It's like,
okay.
Oh wow. Right, okay. So yeah, once you get that wee flutter and the heart rate going, you know you have to try that one.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's been the rule of thumb for anything I've tried in the past. As soon as you get that wee feeling that it's like, that terrifies me, then yes, sign me up.
There's something about that wee thing that gives you a wee there's a fear and a fear factor, and is that the challenge then that immediately ignites that spark or that question about can I do this or will I do it, or do you just think frigates, sign her up and we'll worry about all that as we go along?
I think it's that wee thing inside you that you need to be excited, because if you're not excited by it, you're not going to put in the effort to train for it. So as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you get as I say, that wee flutter, that wee, oh my god, can I actually do that? Probably, but like, we need to see. You sign up and then you worry about the training, I suppose. But yeah, as soon as you get that, I would like to do that idea. That's when you know that you're onto something that you really will put your heart and soul into for training. I
So,
think,
what does that event actually look like then in terms of terrain and elevation and feeding and nutrition and all that sort of stuff? Because I've never heard about it. So, fill
oh,
me in.
um, a lot of elevation. So it's over, not through the mountains. For anybody that's done Mournway marathon or anything before, it takes you the path through it. Whereas this is actually going over each of the mountains, each of the highest ones: Donard, Binion, Comida, Berna, the bitch. You have to do it. She is. It's anybody that knows me. It's Berna the bitch. Comida. Oh, said that one. Sorry. Millmore, and then you come down into one of the checkpoints. And then this is the sadistic thing about this. This is the only chance that you can really drop out at the roadside, is when you come down through Fafney Dam, and you have to check in, and that's the only place where you can get maybe a bit of extra fuel on board, and then you go up the road up to Otcar Park, and then you just turn left and go back into the mountains. And you're like, right, okay. So it's a bit sadistic, because once you're over Lochshana and Mailbeg and Millmore, there's no dropping out at that point, because it's either go over the mountains behind you to get back to the road, or just keep going over the mountains in front of you to get to the finish line. And you know that the finish line is a better option. So it'll be fun. I've done the Garmin Skyline 3 years in a row. And it takes a lot out of the legs and a lot out of the body. So if anybody's down the Mourne Mountains, they'll probably see me this summer. That's where I'll spend most of my summer this year. So it'll be
Well,
fun.
that was my next question then, and you've maybe already answered it, but I suppose I guess you're planning on spending as much time as possible running up and down mountains then.
Yeah, it'll be as many weekends as possible. I've just started off, because I haven't done mountains in so long. I've started off easy with the hiking, so just your lovely long walks, just getting those
Mm-hmm.
legs back, and just attending the run training to make sure that you're getting that speed. And it's not speed in your legs, it's a strength that you're looking in your legs. So you need to attend your run training and make sure you're getting that strength in. And then, as well as that, a bit of cycling, because you know yourself, that builds the quads and it's less pressure on the body. So I normally use the cycling on a Monday for recovery, but yet still hit a few hills. But it'll be fun, I
So
think.
on the day then, are you hoping that you'll be able to do? Will you be hiking? I suppose you'll be hiking. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably will be wrong. Um, my guess would be you'd be kind of hiking up the hills and then maybe trying to find a jog or a bit of a run on the level and maybe pick up the pace on the way down, or is it a kind of slow and steady as you go?
Um,
What's your approach?
Normally it's exactly that. You kind of, it's not your normal hike. You kind of try and hike as fast as you can and move as fast as you can. But yeah, there's definite parts. I actually go slower on the descents for some of it. Ever since I had a fall years ago, not that I've done any major damage, but it just gives you that. It makes you nervous, and then you don't go full tilt. And when you do race these and you get to see the professionals running back past you, you know, the lead runner, they are mountain goats. They are
Mm-hmm.
seriously impressive to watch. But I think that's the same with any race you attend. If I love getting an out and back or something that has a loop where you can see the lead athletes, because when you get to see them, you're just like blown away by the effort that they put in. And you're saying about me cheering people on at the sidelines. There's something amazing about being a cheerleader as well when you get to cheer people on and see what they're going through. But um, yeah, it's going to be a mix of hiking fast, run when I can, and taking sensible decisions on a downhill and enjoying it.
There's probably another sort of serious thing that you'd need to consider with regards to that type of event, and that's the weather. What way does the weather play, or in terms of, I mean, on the day, I guess
On
anything can happen in
uh,
good old Irish weather.
the one thing about the mountain races, they're very strict on your kit. You have to go in and you have to show them you have a proper raincoat, that you have waterproof trousers, you have everything, that they tell you that they have a wee checklist for you, and they will check it. And if they say that coat isn't good enough for you up the mountains, there's a chance that they'll not let you up. So it's very strict in that regard. But if you're going to be training a lot in the mountains, you'll be used to it. When you're going up a mountain, sometimes the rain doesn't come down on you; it comes up to meet you, and that's a lovely feeling. And you're trying to tuck in as close to the Mourne wall as possible for shelter, and everybody's trying to do the same, and you just muddle on. But it's the same, and like yourself, you have 4 seasons in one day. You just keep going. there's no other answer for it. If you train outdoors, you're used to it.
And then I suppose the other thing then that I'm curious about is underfoot. I did a wee event there recently, one of those See the Summit events in Creeslough, and we were going up Muckish. And I had never done, I mean, I literally have never done any type of hill walking or mountain climbing or anything like that. And I was actually a wee bit shocked that we were expected to go up what was just effectively a bare mountain. You know what I mean? I was expecting some sort of a wee trail and maybe an odd step and maybe a litter bin or something halfway up. But there was fucking nothing there. Is it
I think
and the
the
terrain all over the place, rocks 1 minute, gravel the next, grass, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about it. You just have to trust that your trail runner is going to be up to the. You can't really wear mountain boots for that. So I always train in trail runners. So you just have to hope that they're up to the challenge. But they normally are. It's fine. But I think that's why I actually enjoy, if that's the right word, because there is so many different variations and challenges. It's not just tarmac that you're running on. You do have to watch and make sure you don't just disappear into a wee shock somewhere.
Or down into the side of a ravine or something.
Yeah, no, you could be running along and the next thing there's just this wee mud hole and you're just like, oh, I've just disappeared. No offense. I think that's why I enjoy the challenge. I know I've done other like adventure races, a bit like Creeslough, down in Dingle. And sometimes when you don't know the mountain, it's kind of daunting because if there's cloud cover and you're looking up and you can't see the top of the mountain, you're like, how much more up is there? And then it's
Yeah.
hard to gauge how much effort to put into it. I love the mountain down in Dingle. I laugh because it has the Stations of the Cross up. I was trying to remember off the top of my head how many Stations of the Cross there was left because I was like, right, if this is the fifth one, how many's left to go? And you're trying to count it in that regard because you're like, obviously the end one is at the very top. So, but if
I
you're
don't know if that's even comforting or worrying if you're kind of half relating or relying on divine intervention to bail you out halfway up a mountain. I don't know what to make of that.
yeah, you're just trying to count them down. It's like, right, okay. Um, but
Susan falls a third time, eh? You don't want to be hearing that.
thankfully not.
Yeah.
But I think when you do, if there is cloud cover, at least with the mornings, you can go down and train and get to know the mountains really well. I love taking people down that maybe don't know them as well because there's a lot of people would maybe just go down and do Donard, or do the Binion, the popular ones. Whereas I would
Hmm.
be like, no, come on, well, we'll go and have a wee adventure here, and you just take them off and introduce people to other areas of the Mournes, and I like doing that. But then when you're out in race day and you're in full tilt, it's a different kettle of fish. But it's enjoyable, I promise.
Good
You should try.
stuff. Well, that certainly sounds like an epic event. And I'll wish you well with regards to your training from as you head towards that. Does that mean then, in the meantime, that triathlon training's kind of parked, or are you going to pick up a few wee events in the triathlon between now and then, or what's your thoughts?
This year, not so much. I will be up at Oma, and I have
Hmm.
said that I have my wee. I joke about it. I have my age category wee trophy to defend.
Oh yes, that's
Oh yeah.
right. Uh,
So yeah, I'll be up in Oma for that. I genuinely do enjoy that because it is the end of summer, and you do have the ability to go up to Loch Macrory during the summer and just enjoy yourself. Go out for a nice leisurely swim. It's not always like a training session. You can actually go up and enjoy a Sunday afternoon. So
yeah.
I really do love the atmosphere up around Loch Macrory, and then on race day, it's a well organised race by Oma Tray. Um,
Hmm.
as you know, we don't race our own race. We're always cheerleading. So it's good to go to somewhere local and have just as equally enthusiastic cheerleaders. Thankfully, your course is a lot shorter than ours.
It absolutely is. I just about 55 miles shorter, probably.
Yeah, but no, I think that's the only plan for triathlon this year. I must actually get back swimming. I do miss swimming. I haven't put in when you ease off triathlon training. There's a few things that you miss that you're like, oh, I haven't been swimming in a while. I should really get into the pool. Or I genuinely enjoy open water, which is not something I thought I would have said a couple of years ago. If you've seen me before I even knew how to swim, to say that I would miss swimming would be is a weird concept still. But swimming and cycling, I like to try and get one bike in a week at least. Still not a big effort, but I think for the moment it's on the back burner, yes, but
Okay.
not for long. Just not this year.
Never say never type thing.
Never say never. There's always going to be one, and I'll always keep one wee toe in the water.
Yeah. You've made some reference there to having done the mountains in the past, and that's obviously a passion of yours. You've been up and down most of those mountains, probably all of them, and many more. You've done a few other wacky things in the past too. I seem to remember seeing you running about dressed up as a teddy bear at one point. Would you like to shed a wee bit of light on that, whether that was a charity thing or whether you were maybe suffering with some sort of mental health problem at the time?
I think if you look at any of my anything I take on, a lot of people probably ask me if I've got some kind of mental health problem. Um, Yet to be decided. I should probably talk to somebody. The teddy bear came about. Kind of a wee bit of a long story, but not quite. The teddy bear came about because of my friend Laura. Um, when I was lucky enough to get into the London Marathon through the ballot in 2017, my friend Laura came with me, and she was pregnant at the time. And about a month after London Marathon, Cormac came a few weeks too early, quite a few weeks too early, and he only lived for a week. So I didn't have a great run at London. I always said I would love to go back on my terms, and that was something that was put in the back burner for a while. But I always said I would love to go back to London, and it would be on my terms. And with everything that happened with Laura, she got involved with a charity called Aiken Arms, and they help grieving parents with the loss of their children, whether it be miscarriage or what happened to Cormac. So they send little teddy bears from one grieving family to the other, and each teddy bear has their special little name. It's normally in the name of that. It's the name of that lost child, but they send it from one grieving parent to another. So when a parent receives that, they're not leaving the hospital with aching arms. They're not leaving it with empty arms. It's a small comfort. So in 2020, when London didn't go ahead, all the charities suffered that year because they lost out on a big fundraising opportunity. And it was meant to be moved till, what was it, September or October time? I think it was October they were meant to do it, but with all things of 2020, nothing went to plan. So that was the first year London went virtual. And about 6 weeks beforehand, Aching Arms reached out and said, is there anybody that wants a virtual entry to raise some much needed funds during such a terrible year for the charities? And Laura was like, will you please take an entry, because I know that you're always running the roads. Yeah, no problem. And she was like, we just need to raise X amount of pounds. And I was like, how am I going to do that in 6 weeks? So first of all, you have to train for a marathon in 6 weeks. You don't have what you normally have base wise, your long runs. So brainwave, let's dress up as a teddy bear, as the Aching Arms teddy bear. Kindly asked Hurling Pitches in Dungannon if they could allow me to run around it and have a small teddy bears picnic. So they were very, very nice, very, very kind and very supportive. So quite a considerable amount of laps of the Hurling Pitches in Dungannon. And in the lashing rain, I completed the first teddy bear marathon in 4 hours 51, I think it was.
Very good.
It was a tough slog. The rain made the bear suit so heavy.
I was going to say.
The body of it actually wasn't too bad. The head of it, because it's all padded, it was quite a weight on the shoulders. And when I took it off, my nose was just raw red, and my forehead was just the same, just completely skin off, raw. And I was like,
badly chapped.
This is going to be tough if we ever do this properly as an actual marathon, because me and Laura had discussed that before as well. But it gave me that, as I said earlier, that you need something to ignite that passion for training. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to qualify. I'm going to push myself and try and qualify. I've tried so many times before and failed to get that qualifying time for London. And after doing that, dressed as a teddy bear, I was like, right, that's it. I need to work hard here. I'm going to try. And thankfully I had a really, really new and good coach, and she transformed my running. We went to Manchester Marathon and ran a 3:36, I think it was. And that was me qualified. And I was like, right, London 2023, let's come for you.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Before that though, I had to test and see what it was going to be like to actually run a marathon. So the teddy bear was actually taken to Belfast as well, because in 2022 nothing really went ahead either. Do you remember it was meant to be May and it changed to October as well? And me and two girls, Adele and Tracy, they were like, oh, I don't think of the miles in. I don't think I'll bother with the marathon. I don't really know what to do. And I was like, here, I genuinely want to qualify for London and run it as a teddy bear and do this in memory of Cormac in my own terms. For Laura, we're going to go back to it. But I need to see what it's like in a real marathon. So them two girls run with me. They were my eyes, and that's when I realised how hard this might have been. I was like, I actually don't know how I'm going to run a marathon on my own, because you've very limited visibility. Very limited. You can see in front of you to a certain degree, but anything below you, so any water bottles or speed bumps, when they're within about 2 meters of you, you can't see them. And the girls were either side of me, and they were like, right, speed bump, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump.
Right.
They were kicking the water bottles out of the road, and they quite literally held my hand through it. It was a very warm Belfast Marathon for that, but I knew what was expected of me then. So then the training really began for Manchester then, and put everything into it, and we qualified. So me, Laura, and her rainbow Emer, my little fairy goddaughter, got to go to London last year dressed as a teddy bear and run the actual streets of London in memory of Cormac and for Aiken Arms. So when you have something that means so much behind it, it's a bit easier to do and it's a bit easier to train for. And especially when you raise a few much needed pounds for charity along the way, I think it's. I know people be like, "Oh, the teddy bear girl, the one that's is mental enough to run that." But when there's a passion behind it and a reason behind it, I think it makes it easier and a bit more heartwarming or something. I don't know what the proper word
No, it's
is.
you're absolutely right. Whenever people listen to this and they understand the reason and the rationale behind it and the story, it all makes perfect sense. It's such a fitting tribute and it's such commitment from you in terms of, it's all right to have an idea and to harbour this notion about doing something, but then to actually say, well, I'm going to actually train for this. I'm going to qualify. I'm going to get to this London Marathon off my own back and do it. It's much more than maybe just those photographs that we see or the wee video of you running about in the suit. So
Yeah,
hats off to you, Susan. Absolutely fantastic. Well done.
thank you. I must genuinely must thank Natalie for she was the one that coached me, and I don't know if a lot of people know either or realise that the race belt that I wore in the day, I had little hearts on them, and I had put up a wee message on Facebook to say, look, I'm running this for this reason, for this charity. If anybody wants me to take a wee name with me, pick a colour, and I think I had maybe about 10 to 15 little names with me, little angels, and they got to run the marathon with me. So it was different. It was a wee thing for me just to be like, right, we're it's not just me running the marathon. I got to bring good company with me. 4 different parents, and a few of those hearts I still actually have a few that still have to be returned to the parents, but I brought each of the hearts back for the London Marathon. There was no finish line photograph posted on Facebook that night. It was just the little hearts, the little names that got to make the journey with me, and I think that made it really worthwhile for me. So a lot of people don't understand that wee bit behind it or knew about that wee bit behind it. But I think it's important to say that there was more than just me and the teddy bear suit that day.
Uh,
And so yeah, it was nice.
no, that's amazing. It's a lovely story and it's fantastic. Thank you for sharing it and explaining it.
Yeah, no problem.
The other thing then that I wanted to ask about was, did you at one point do a 100-mile event?
Maybe.
Maybe means possibly, and possibly means yes, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, spill the beans.
Yeah. That one, I don't know what. After 2017, London Marathon was 2017. A week after it, I done Belfast. And then I got the notion there was the Mourne Ultra. And I got the notion to do it. That was my first ultra marathon. And I then ended up doing the Causeway and Tullamore Ultra, all 26 extreme. I
Yes.
kept showing up and I was like, geez, I really like your fruitcake. I don't know if you've ever tasted it. It's good fuel. But yeah, there was something in me that wanted to see how far that I could run. So the idea of the ultra, and I'm sure like I train with Keith as a personal trainer, and if you ever see the back of his wall, you get to see all these things. And there's there's a wee tick list there for me, and I'm just like, oh, that actually kind of sounds cool. So the ultras were in the back, and then I was like, geez, I wonder how far I could go. Um, and in 2018, I signed up for the Quadrathon. They had done. They had used to do the 4 half marathons and the 4 marathons every day in a row, but one year they decided you were allowed to do the Quadrathon, just start at the start, don't stop, and just keep going.
Okay.
And I seen a few fellas doing it, and I was like, oh my god, 4 marathons back to back. I would love to try that. uh, so for training for it was Energia down in Victoria Park in Belfast, and in 2018 I had in my head that I just had to do 3 marathons back to back. Let's just see how it goes. That was my training goal, was get over 80. And I got to 99.2 miles when the klaxon went.
Right.
To say I was disappointed in myself that I didn't have enough to get that extra 0.8 to have 100 miles in 24 hours. I was like, oh my god. And
So what? How close did you come there?
99.2 in 24 hours. And
Christ of Almighty.
after it, we sat in the tent and we watched as other people lifted their 100 miles in 24-hour jackets. And I was like, oh my god, I was so close. So I was like, I'm going to have to come back next year. But the Quadrathon itself, about 2 weeks. So to add insult to injury, 2 weeks after doing 99.2 miles, the Quadrathon got cancelled because there wasn't enough people had signed up for it that year. I think there was only like myself and 2 others, and they just said, no, we're not going to run it. There's not enough people out in the road, and that's fair enough if it's safety reasons and all that jazz. But that was a double blow, and I was so annoyed. And I can remember I work part-time in a bar, and I can remember one of the fellas in the bar, and he just made me laugh. And it does speak through as what I said earlier at the start of this podcast. He's like, you need to find a new challenge. You just need to find, and in his words, I laughed, but it still sticks to me. And if anybody asks me for advice on what to do, and he just goes, you need to do what makes you horny. And I was like, what? And he's like, you need to do something that makes you excited. And I was like, right, okay, that makes more sense. But just them telling me that, I was like, right, okay. I was like, I just need to go back to the 24-hour and focus on that. So then following year, I start training. Oh, Dungannon Park. I don't even want to admit how many miles I have done in Dungannon Park. There's a wee loop around it, and it's about a mile. And if you park your car in the right spot, it's like pretty much like Energia, bar a hill. And you just keep coming round, and every 2 or 3 stops you stop, you get your fuel on board, and you go again, and you're rocking up to Dungannon Park 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And you're running around, and the next thing the park runners start. And it's funny because then when you're coming through, they're like, oh no, through the chute. And I was like, oh, I have 19 miles done. I think I took a wrong turn somewhere. And they're like, what? But you're training there flat out every weekend. You're 18 miles one day, 20 miles the next day. Doing a bar shift in the middle really worked for your endurance. And just getting used to having that, getting the fuel on board, getting that dialed in, making sure you're eating enough. And then closer to Belfast Marathon, you're doing Eames the day before, doing a marathon. Having the great company with Jill McCann, who, I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of running with Jill. She is great for advice, and when she knew that I was going back for the 24-hour, she had lots of little tidbits of information and just wee things, but a lot of it was just learning how to keep a steady pace, and even if you have to walk, that you're not walking slowly, that you're still actually putting some effort behind that walk.
Yeah.
I can remember in the middle of that marathon that I ran with her, she was like, "You need to learn how to power walk." I don't know if you've ever had to do that. You probably would have maybe have done that for your Ironman.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're not walking, that you're still putting some effort. It pulls on different muscles. And you know yourself,
Mhm.
your glutes just be like, "Oh, that's a different uncomfortable."
Yeah.
Um so a lot of training went into that, and then I hit Victoria Park again. 2018, it was a warm day. Or sorry, 2019, it was a very warm day. I was messaging my friend down in Belfast. I was messaging Laura, and I was like, "Please bring down ice lollies." A lot of us were suffering, and I was just telling anybody I was out with, I was like, "There's ice lollies in my tent. If you need them, just go grab them." Um, a lot of us just. It came to the point then I couldn't keep food down. Nothing was, even the smallest sip of water. Everything was coming up for me, and I was like, "Great, good old Tommy playing ball." I would safely say from about 6 o'clock that evening till 6 o'clock the next morning, Vicky just tried everything. Vicky is possibly the best crew member you could ever ask for. She always, when you're coming round, she had something ready for you to try, something new, something different, or just to rub out the legs. But she got me through it. And I can remember meeting a friend, Paul. He had dropped out at about 1 in the morning. And the next morning when he woke up, I was still going. He's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "Oh, 90 miles." And I can actually remember phoning my other half. He wasn't there at the time, and I was having an absolute mental breakdown, to say the least. I couldn't work out. Couldn't work out the pace in my head. You need to be hitting a certain pace to ensure that you're actually going to get your target. And I kept working it out that I was going to get 99 miles again. And I was like, "It's going to happen again. I'm not going to make it. I am going to be disappointed for the second year in a row."
Mhm.
And he was just laughing at the other side of the phone, going, "Where is your head at? Like, where is your miles?" And he was like, "That is not working out." And he was like, "You're ahead of target, and you just need to keep going at that pace, and you're going to make it." And he was like, "No, I'm not." he just,
You're
I,
having none of it.
I know, I was just in my head mentally couldn't work out that I was fine. And I was just, I had it that I was destined to fail, and I just hung up on him. And then Paul had just woke up, and he was like, "You're so close, let's go." And then he quite literally took me by the hand. This is a fella from down south. Like, yeah, I only ever meet him at races, and he was just like, "Okay, Susan, let's do this." We're actually, I think this is one of the things that I appreciate and love most about the running community is you meet people at races, and then you get in, like, your friends on Facebook, you get to see their journey as well. But because he had knew me actually from the Mourne Skyline before, um, he was like, "No, you're not missing out this year. You're going to get it done." And he came with me, and he was just like making me walk when I had to walk, and a wee bit of running, and managed to hit the 100 miles in 22 hours and 52 minutes. So yeah,
Excellent.
I was a wee bit ahead of target, and I was like, "Okay, I can sit down now." And they were like, "No, you keep going." I was like, "What?"
It was wild how your mind had you kind of um believing that you weren't going to do it, and that anxiety was just creeping in, and then you were convincing yourself that you weren't going to make it, and
Yeah,
it's
you have it in your head that you're just absolutely not going to hit your target again. You have that fear because you knew how disappointed you were from the year before,
uh-huh.
and trying to convince yourself otherwise because you're hungry, you're dehydrated, thanks to the heat, and nothing was staying down. The one of the game changers on that was about 8 in the morning. Some woman that was crewing beside us, they were a group from Dublin direction. She was like an angel. She was like, she knew that we were having problems with me eating, and that I couldn't even keep water down. And at 8 in the morning, I hadn't ate or drank in hours, and she was like, "Have some watermelon. It's food and water." And I was like, "Oh,
Uh,
um,
perfect combo.
perfect combo." And I was like, "I don't know if this is gonna work." And she was like, "Get it into you." And it was the first in hours that I actually had something, and then that kind of changed the mood for me as well. Was the fact that, again, the running community rally around you. They know that you're trying to hit your goal, and they're like, "Let's help them out too." Um, so when I finally had something in me, food wise, and a wee bit of an energy kick, and Paul by my side as well, I was like, "All right, okay, we can maybe do this."
Brilliant.
And it's a bit, I don't know if you've ever been down at energy or at the 24 hour. It's a bit anticlimactic at the same, because you come around and you know you're going for your last lap for the 100 mile, and you go through and everybody's cheering you on, and it's beyond emotional because you're so tired. And everybody's cheering you on, and then you walk around and there's nobody really at the far side of the Victoria Park loop, and you walk around and there's just this wee sign with 100 mile on it.
And that's
And you're
it.
like, "Yay!"
We private moment of celebration.
And
Class.
you're just like, "Woohoo!" I hate it, and there's nobody
Bring
there.
your own party popper, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's a wee bit funny that, like, after a whole year of training, that you're so excited to reach this wee tiny post in the ground, but for yourself, you're just like, "Yay!" Um,
But hey,
but
that is some going. I mean, whenever I was speaking with Jill, when I recorded her podcast, Jill was talking about it too, and it's absolutely mind blowing. I mean, I can't get my head around it at all. 100 miles just non-stop. Running, walking, whatever way you want to break it down. That in 24 hours is nuts.
we could maybe tempt you to next year then.
Well, phew, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all, actually.
It's
I'm liking doing triathlon, and I think I would have to focus. If you were going to do that, you would need to be 100%. You'd need to be all in. I would imagine,
Oh
you could
yeah.
maybe supplement it a wee bit, but you wouldn't be putting as much effort in on the bike, for example. You'd need to take it all back and train specifically for that, probably.
Well, you do get to bike and swim. I was using swim for recovery, and during the week I would have maybe done an hour in the turbo, and then went
Mhm.
out for a run because I was trying to tire my legs out
Yeah,
and run. So you don't have to give up your triathlon training in that respect, but if anything, it does help for, as I say, your recovery. So you do get to have your swim. I would actually highly recommend that you keep swimming,
yeah,
to allow your joints to kind of just recover after a weekend of long miles. When you're doing 50 miles in one weekend, I know there's people that do more, but when you're doing over 50 miles in 2 days, just back to back for training purposes, come Monday, you're like, "Oh, I actually just really like a wee swim now." And then
aye,
Tuesday, you're jumping on the turbo and you're trying to do a hard, fast session on the bike to really tire your legs out. And then you're straight into the trainers, quick transition, don't even let them cool down, and then go for like a 6 mile, 8 mile, 10 mile run on a
yeah.
Tuesday afternoon just to run on tired legs. So you would very much benefit. Well, you would do more. It's the same as you're training for your Ironman. You know your brick runs, but you're
Hmm.
just doing a wee bit more running than you're cycling, because cycling takes up so much time.
So, you've mentioned Iron Man there. Am I right in thinking then that are we working up in chronological order here towards Iron Man?
Yes.
So you've done your marathons, you've
Okay.
done your ultras, you've done the 100 miles. Well, I'm going to call it twice. I'm just going to say you done that twice for the sake of point 0.8 miles. There's no point splitting hairs between friends. You done it twice. So,
Nice.
so part of your training then for those massive endurance events was using the turbo, burning the legs out. Was it at that point you thought, after the 100, did you then start toying with the idea of Ironman, or did you? What led you to that start line in
Uh,
Cork? I think your first one, wasn't it?
the triathlon was a. I tend to take on a few different. That's why I'm saying I've this year I've taken it a bit easier. I tend to have a few things on the go where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that and I wouldn't mind trying this, but this is my main goal here. So in the background of marathon training, ultra training, I couldn't swim. I had an absolute phobia of swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And you've interviewed Keith, you can see how motivated he is. And as I say, that back wall, it's always like, Jesus, triathlon would be a really good idea. And I can remember even when I started with BST, there was a few in the club, they were training for Lanzarote Ironman, and I was just in awe because these people were like just coming in from a bike and they were like telling me the crack. You were out in Park North Sunday morning and they're like, oh yeah, just on X amount of miles and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do an Ironman. I'm like, what's an Ironman? And then they're like, oh yeah, just casually drop in like the 2.4 mile swim and 112 mile bike. And I was like, well, I can't swim, so that's me out. I made the mistake of saying that to Joanne Miller. A big mistake telling somebody that teaches swimming that you cannot swim. Especially, I just figured I was too old to learn how to swim. At this stage, my goal was what started my fitness journey was wanting to run a marathon before I was 30. So I'd signed up for Dublin 2016. So my goal that year was a marathon. I had literally just started my my fitness journey, I suppose. And already I had that little seed planted of an Ironman. What I thought was the ultimate challenge, because I just wanted to run a marathon. And here they were doing a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a marathon to finish for the crack. They,
As you do.
as you do. So they were heading out to Lanzarote for I think there was 4 or 5 of them headed out that year. And shortly after that, Tri Limits became an official club. So Natural Progression started with Tri Limits because I knew the vast majority of the people in it because they came from BST. And
just for anybody that doesn't know, BST is Blood, Sweat and Tears, and you guys were an extreme running group, isn't that right? You did a lot of cross country stuff and over muck and through hills and streams and rivers, and you went up and down the length of the country doing hell and back and the likes.
A lot of OCR.
Yeah.
I had started with Keith at the Dakar Garage in 2015, and he had talked me into it. So I had started with them in like January or February time. I think they had an open day, and I had it my idea to run a marathon. You had to be so serious about running, and you had to be so serious about you do obviously have to be serious, but he introduced the idea that, you know, if it's fun, or it can be fun, probably be a better way to describe it. So running could be fun.
Yeah.
So started with BST, I think it was February. And so these ones were all well into, as you know, as we both know now, well into their Ironman training, because Ironman Lanzarote is what, May. So going from there, Joanne and another Joanne McDonald, it was their mission then to get me swimming. Between swimming lessons in Dungannon. I don't know when you learned to swim or if you could always swim. I know we both ended up doing the distance, but I mean, when you start off swimming and you can't do the length of a pool, you're wondering, Jesus, am I really, is this a realistic target? So I think that's why my triathlon, especially when I had such a fear of water, my triathlon journey took a while.
That's what I'm a wee bit interested in that one, because just to answer your question, I suppose I could always swim. I learned to swim when I was pretty young, in the Oma Leisure Centre, so I could always swim. Now, I had never really received any formal swimming lessons or anything like that, or I wasn't in the swimming club, or I never swam competitively or anything like that. But I did love splashing about in the water. So it's quite interesting just for anybody else as well, I suppose, is listening to hear this particular story, because you're thinking in your head about maybe doing an Ironman, and you literally can't swim the length of yourself. So talk us through that process. So this Joanne, and the two, is there a pair
The
of Joannes on
yeah,
board here now, and they're
the
taking you by the
Joanne.
hand down to Dungannon Leisure Centre for the first time. What's going through your head as you're in the water there for the first time?
um, Joanne McDonald had to meet me outside the leisure centre. I actually couldn't even go in through the door. I was like the absolute fear of the thought of it.
Uh-huh.
And so Joanne McDonald got me into the pool. And I also took some beginner adult lessons. And you feel a wee bit embarrassed by telling people at the start, but looking back now, there was nothing to be embarrassed about. But at the
No,
same time,
not at all.
um, you're getting into the wee pool in Dungannon, like the kids' pool, and you can stand. It's water waist high, even on me, 5 foot. So, but the thought of putting my face in the water petrified me. And I can remember the swim coach was like, "Okay, just hold on to the side of the the wee bar across the pool." She's like, "Hold on there, and we're just going to put our face into water and blow bubbles." And I was like, "Do I have to?"
Really?
I was hoping I could swim. Do you know the way you see the older ladies that can swim and chat away with their head out of the
Oh
water?
yes,
Ah,
yes.
that's goals for me later in life.
Aye.
Yeah, just starting from there, starting in the wee pool, and I had to take those wee lessons, the beginner lessons, and then the advanced into the bigger pool. See, and I don't know if you've been in Dungannon pool or know it, but it has a deep end.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You are trying to swim, and then the next thing, the bottom just disappears. It just seems so far away, and you're like, oh my god. The actual just thought of it and trying to get over that. But I must say, like, the girls were very, very insistent that I didn't give up. Fair play to them. And every time there was beginner lessons coming up, or advanced lessons, sorry, Joanne would let me know. And
Mm-hmm.
then she was like, "You need to get in and try it outside of the swimming lessons and stuff as well." And I can just remember one of the swim teachers, God rest him bopper, like I can remember I was in the water and I just thought in my head, if I just kick and kick like mad, runner head was in, like I just thought running, if I just use my legs, kick like mad, I'll get from A to B and that's me done. And I can remember Bopper getting into the pool and standing in front of me, like physically standing in front of me along the top of the pool. And he's like, every time you come too close to me, I'm going to make you start again. He really made me slow it way down. And he's like, you need to relax. You're not going to let yourself drown.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, at that point, because like it was the top of the pool, it was waist deep. But what he meant was like, trust yourself,
Aye.
slow down, trust yourself, and see once. Then as well, Joanne got me in with the pool boy and took the legs out of the equation, and I started using my arms, and I really started to do the 1, 2, 3 counts. And
Yep.
there was a few other coaches that I had along the way as well, and they just swim teachers in Dungannon. And I'm really glad that I stuck with it, because once that 1, 2, 3 breathe kicked in and you felt like you were making a wee bit of progress, the next step was obviously open water. Oh God.
Uh-huh. And
So a
that would
great.
have been a big jump. So in terms of time scales, from just learning to swim in a pool, getting over the fear of the deep end in the pool, and now you're into open water. So how long has passed whenever you're
I
um
would say the guts of a year or two nearly.
okay.
Yeah. So the first time I was in open water was down in Craigavon Lakes.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was in a wetsuit far too big for me.
Right.
Oh God, the absolute, every time the water touched my chin, I freaked out. And I needed to get my face in the water. And that wasn't that wasn't a pleasant experience. But again, I had a really good group of girls around me from the club at the time, and they were just really good at calming me down and showing me the way. And I can remember then doing my first try at Camlock, and
Okay.
the absolute fear of getting into the water. And I can remember, like, it's such a long journey and learning how to do all of that. And when you go down to Camlock and you're doing a try, I was either last or second last out of the water. I genuinely can't remember. But what I do remember, when I came out of the water, some fella on a TT bike and an aero helmet was using it as a training run. And I was only coming out of the water, and he had finished his bike
Right.
and the way out on the run. And I was going through transition, trying to just get myself prepared to go out on the bike.
Yeah.
And so he was well finished by the time I had finished my bike, never mind my run. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But I know Joanne, and Joanne was down with me there again. She really was the person that just kept me going through my journey, to be honest. And she was like, no, he was just using it as a training run. You just ignore him. And I had signed up for OMA, my
Okay.
first experience of Loch McCrory. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it.
Okay. Yeah.
it,
It's dark, isn't it? The water, like, is
it
there?
was the year that OMA you had decided to put everybody in off the pier, and it was the men started and then the women.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I can't remember, was that 2018?
Can't mind off the top of my head.
Quite possibly, but I can remember the men were in first, and then I got in, and all that. I don't know what's it. Is it peat at the bottom of the log? It was all kicked up, and it was so
Ah.
black.
Yeah.
It was so black, and I can remember I went to breathe, and I don't even know what happened, but I went to breathe at the wrong time, and everything was so black, and I took a full on panic attack in the water that had to take me back to the pier. I was like, oh God, this is not happening. Um, so thankfully, they allowed me to do the try distance, and I took my time trying to get around the water, and then I could do the full bike and the full sprint run bit.
Yeah.
So that was okay. First kind of experience of doing a bit of a swim, and then Joanne was like, "No, we're going to try this again," and we went down to Cavan, and she stayed on my right hand side because she knew I was stronger breathing to the right hand side, and
Mm-hmm.
every time I took a breath, I could see her right beside me. And if you see me getting out of Camlock water, or not Camlock, out of Cavan Lake that day, oh my God, I you would have thought I just won it.
You were buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely buzzing. The water down in Cavan was so similar to Astra Loch. Every time I went to sight, I was like, oh my God, the boys aren't the right colour. I was just convinced it was an Astra. I was like, right.
Yeah.
But that was the start of my swimming then for triathlon. A bit of a journey. It took 2 or 3 years to get there.
But it just goes to show you, I mean, I've already got the idea that when you put your mind to something, you're getting there by hook or by crook. At some point you're gonna get where you want to be, and that's a strong place to be. Um, and then I suppose moving up from the likes of sprint distance, did you go then and do a half distance, or did you just jump up straight up into just training for an Ironman, or did you pick up some different events en route?
Um, I never done an Olympic distance. I jumped into the first half distance I done was 4 weeks after I done the 100 miles. Would you believe?
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, right, I have the endurance. The cycling, I built it up over a while as well. So we'd done like the likes of Lap the Loch with the club and stuff like that. So again, everything. That's why I was saying like about me taking this year a bit easier. I just have one goal. Normally, I've got a few ideas in the go, but it's doing them simultaneously.
Yeah.
So just had built up my biking, and as I said, on my first middle distance, and I found it relatively easy in comparison to the 24 hour, because you're only out there what 6 or 7 hours, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, well sure, that was I have the rest of the day to myself.
Handy enough.
But yeah, going from there, I suppose the big change then was my other half Stephen knew how much I wanted to do the Ironman, and because I had got my 100 mile in 2019, in 2020, his Christmas present so lovingly was an Ironman entry, whichever Ironman I wanted. And I was like, right,
Brilliant. That was
fine.
one of those moments that was kind of a double-edged sword where you were thinking, "Oh, that's so sweet. They got me what I wanted," and then probably went, "Oh shit, I have to do an Ironman."
I think it was, I think it was payback, because for his birthday one year, I bought him a marathon entry, and he never ran a marathon. He was a cyclist when I met him, so
All right.
I fixed that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the unfortunate thing then obviously was 2020, as you know, everything just shut down.
Yeah. Good
Cork,
old COVID put a stop to all our fun games.
oh yeah, so Cork didn't happen that year, so it was meant to go ahead in 2021, and training begun, and really built up my bike. I had to really focus on my biking. My running was there, it was good, and I knew it was good because I'd worked with Natalie from lockdown on, and she really changed my running. My swimming had built up to a level where I again don't know what your level of swimming is like, but for me, I'm just happy not drowning. So
Aye.
to me,
Yeah.
I'm just like, as long as I get into the water and take my time and just get into that rhythm, and it's all about that rhythm. And I know people say, oh, if you work on your technique and do this and do that, yes, that's fine. And I know when I go to club training, I do change what they tell me to change. Ruth has a lot of patience for me, and she does push you on. But at the end of the day, when it comes to race day, you need to do what's most comfortable for you.
Absolutely. That's the way I'm programmed as well. I can push my swim up and down with speed drills and this, that, and the other. But like you, I want to just be able to get into my own wee rhythm, my 1, 2, 3 breathe thing. I do that as well. And then I just keep counting to four and keep counting and breathing. And then, oh, that's it, finished. Good stuff. Away I go on the bike. So I try not to really overwhelm myself or think too much about it. I try to just relax into it and maintain a
A steady.
tempo as such. Yeah.
That's exactly it. You're 1, 2, 3 breathe, 1, 2, 3 sight. That's
Uh,
when you're in open water. 1, 2, 3 breathe, 1, 2, 3 sight. Okay,
well,
and
I do the 1, 2, 3 sight, 1, 2, 3 sight, 1, 2, 3 sight, etc. I sight every four.
oh really? Oh,
Yeah. I
well,
always make
goes
sure
a
I'm
bit.
on target to try and just to try and stop me deviating because I'll naturally drift off to the left hand side because I'm a bit stronger on my right. So my swim will tend to pull me off to the left. So I have to make sure that I'm always hitting the right sighting. Because I only want to swim whatever the distance is. I don't need to be swimming an extra 50 or 100 meters by zigzagging on the way to that buoy. So that's why I do that every four sides or every four strokes rather.
I should maybe take that on board for myself for the next
Mhm.
one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm qualified for a top tip, but there, yeah, you can try that one out.
Normally, I would be checking for the boys and checking before I get into the water. Like I try to find points on the skyline, on the horizon, sorry, where I
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be aiming for. And I think once you have those, you're definitely, maybe I should be sighting a wee bit more, but as it is, I have that wee rhythm, and it kind of seems to work that I manage to get through my swim. Um, didn't really work in Sheephaven for my first sea swim. No, sorry, that's a lie. For my second sea swim, it was rough waters, and I think everybody just, that's when you learn that you just sight nearly every breath.
yeah.
But 2021, started training properly for the Ironman. That was it. Full training had commenced. And at the beginning of that year, I had Manchester Marathon. No, that was 2022. Sorry, I'm trying to actually have my own timeline in my head. But 2021, yeah, we were training for what we thought was going to be Cork in August. Really built up my biking. Strongest cycling I ever had in my life. Doing lap to lock. When I first done the lap to lock, my average was, I think it was like 16 point something. Not bad for a first attempt on a.
Yeah, it's grand, eh?
And that year when we done it as a club, just the club out, I think I came back with like a 19 average, and I was like, what?
Deadly.
So
That's
definitely
some going there.
Yeah, definitely pushed it a bit harder for the cycling that year, but unfortunately things didn't go ahead. COVID again put that off for another year, and I was like, flip me, this is the second year in a row that this Ironman's been put off. Well, like my goal in my head that it was put off. So the club, they had put on Askerman out at Askra, and
Okay.
that meant doing the Tri-Tyrone course doubled up. So you do 2 laps of the lock, I had to do 4. You do 3 laps of the Ballygully line, I had to do 6. So
Lovely.
yeah, you done 2 laps. So like anybody that tells me now after me doing Askerman that 2 laps of this, 3 laps of that, I'm like, I try double.
Dry your eyes and get on with it, eh?
Try your eyes, mate. There's great socks at the finish line.
Quality socks, indeed, yeah.
So I done Askerman as my first Ironman distance. My
Brilliant.
first full distance, sorry, because I know the trademark. They're very touchy about that. So my first full distance triathlon, and it was 13 hours 44 minutes. I was quite happy with that.
Class.
Yeah, really comfortable throughout the day. Struggled on the run, I must say. That just my energy levels were gone, and I can just remember the last lap or two. I was like, I just can't be bothered finishing. I was like, that's terrible. But it's
And
not
was that just nutrition then? Was it that you just ran out of energy or
I
you
don't
didn't
know.
take on enough fuel or whatever?
No, I took on plenty of fuel. I just, in my head, was like, I can't be bothered now.
Right.
It's like, right, I've come this far, but you still have to be finished. But your legs are just like, your legs are tired. As I said,
Aye.
I pushed it so hard in the bike that day, and my legs were just, I suppose maybe my legs were giving out. And I thought, hey, am I even trying this? And got to the finish line anyway. And I know you're one for your music, and I made sure that Joanne had. I could hear it when I was coming off the finish line. Florence and the Machine, You Got the Love.
Deadly.
So
Yeah.
on the radio, I always have to have a wee theme tune, and that was the theme tune for that training.
Class.
Yeah. So the following year, then 2022, Ironman comes back again. This time we're going ahead. It's like, right. This year, though, I scaled it back a bit on the cycling. I didn't do as much as what I had done previously, not speed-wise anyway. I took it back to the level that I was comfortable with. Didn't do as much in the turbo, done a lot more out in the road with Adele and Eilish. They were doing the 70.3 that year. They hated me because there's a few hills just off the Ballygolly line, and I was like, right, we need to go hit these hills, because I knew I wanted to get up Windmill Hill.
Oh, yes. The infamous Windmill Hill.
Yeah. And every time we were out, it was hills, more hills, and they hated me. And I was like, nope, hills make you stronger. There is a climb out of Castle Caulfield as well, and it is 10k of climbing.
Okay.
All the way to the top. And I love doing it. And the very last bit of it is straight up. And if you're not a good driver, this is the kind of hill that you'll stall on. And we were going straight up that hill for training. And I was like, yep. So do you know yourself, after work, you need to get a decent training session in. That's what
Uh-huh.
I was doing. I was like, no, during the week it was hills, hills, hills. And then on the Sundays was the endurance, the long distance. I would cycle over to meet the club, do a few miles of the club, and then cycle to the Ballygolly line or somewhere and do an hour or two extra on my own. And I was still working with Natalie at that stage. Natalie didn't really know anything about triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Natalie, it's going to be really easy. I had talked to Joanne about how she coped with the marathon, and I talked to a few others, and they were telling me the same thing. Run the bits in between, and when it comes to the stands, whether it's the water stand or the nutrition stand or wherever, walk in between the stations,
Yeah.
and then again. So Natalie, all of her long runs for me was 4 miles of running, half a mile easy, 4 miles of running, half a mile easy, and then come the fourth mile or the third turn was like pick up the pace and then 4 miles hard and then walk half a mile. So I must say she was very good for somebody who didn't really know much about triathlon to get me to that running strength. I was like, right, felt a bit more.
That sounds like a really, really valuable piece of training advice there. You know, if that's going to be your strategy, that makes perfect sense. Yep.
I
Brilliant.
don't know if it'll work for everybody. I
So
don't
it
know.
sounds logical though, doesn't it? Like, you know, because, you know, if you're going to
Yeah.
be stopping and taking on a wee bit of water and catching your breath, you need to get your body used to that kind of run and then walk for a wee bit, albeit that it's probably, you wouldn't be going as far as 4 mile, like, but um, it sounds sensible to me anyway. I might steal that one actually and try that myself.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, she didn't know much about triathlon. Natalie's a marathoner and a deadly one at that, but we were winging it. But what I had said, what my plan was for the day, she worked with that on the. That was for like the longer 20 mile runs, is how I worked that one. For the shorter one, it might have just been like 3 miles on, half a mile off, but that was our strategy. And I went with that every day. You know, brick runs, great crack. Nothing like coming off a 80, 90 mile bike and being like, right, I need to put my trainers on and go for a run.
Hmm.
I'm sure
They're
you
so,
know.
so pleasant. Always look forward to a brick run. Not, I know.
There's nothing I love more than being like, oh, yay, 100 miles on the bike done, and then having to lace.
Legs like lead. Yeah.
Oh, mine were always jelly. Like, I could actually start my run and not feel my feet for at least half a mile, if not more. And you're just
Uh,
running in the sheer hope that you don't go over your ankle.
so and hoping that at some point you can feel yourself running because you don't know what's happening from the knees down. Like
It's a great sensation, isn't it?
it's lovely. Like, it's like Billy Connolly when he talked about being drunk from the waist down. Like it's sort of a bit like that, only with lycra.
It's a very good analogy for it, yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know what it's like to do a brick run, that's a good idea of it. But yeah, so that year Ironman went ahead, as I said. I was very lucky. I think I'm one of the very few Ironmen in Ireland that actually got a full swim.
Aye. Was that
Um,
the year that the water was lovely and perfect and nice and calm?
and lovely and warm, and the whole week was absolutely roasting. Yeah, that week.
Because I always maintain now. Obviously, whenever I did Ironman, the sea was very rough, and not go into that too much. Like, but the
No.
conditions were pretty savage. But and I was always very aware, with just with the geography of that coastline and the tide coming in and where the wind coming in as well, that once you would get out past sort of the turning point, that you would be being brought back in straight into transition one with the tide, and there would be a surge that would be driving you home. Is that what you experienced on that day? Just to satisfy my curiosity.
I how would I even explain how my swim went? I was again trying to get into that wee rhythm, and I found sighting in the sea really, really difficult. The boys were so far apart, and I was just relying on the people in front of me.
Hmm.
And when it came to doing that turn, I was like, right, because you can, luckily enough for them, they have the two boys close together. But once you turn, I was like, where's the next boy?
They're right and far apart, like.
Yeah. But yeah, when you have that turn, by the time you turn, you are quite tired, but it's a longer distance back. So me personally, I didn't feel that it was like somebody was. It's not like being drafted in,
Right.
or on the bike. It didn't feel anything like that. It was just, it didn't feel as much of a struggle, but at the same time, you were tired.
Yeah.
So just trying to settle into that rhythm, and then I was just sighting off the lighthouse coming back because I couldn't see any boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember that morning, after 2 years of training, 1 year of it not going ahead and doing a different distance, the absolute goosebumps when the Irish dancers are there in the morning. I don't know if you got that because of the weather conditions.
No, we didn't. No. Or
Oh,
if we did, I didn't see it. I was that far back. The day we done it, the 70.3 guys joined the full
oh yeah.
distance guys. So we were way, way, way down the promenade. We couldn't hear or see a thing from where we were, you know. So they let the 70.3 athletes away in front of the full
Well,
Ironman group. So, but I've heard a lot about it. But gone ahead, sorry.
no, you're okay. No, it's just a comparison of
Mm-hmm.
what we both experienced for what can happen on a good day versus a bad day.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that morning, yeah, lining up on the promenade, and the Irish dancers started, and you're just like, oh, that's really cute. And the next thing, the infamous ACDC started. Oh God, the
Maybe.
hairs went up the back of my neck, and I was like, oh. Actually, even further back from that, 4:30 when my alarm went off, the first thing that came out of my mouth that morning, I rolled over and I was like, I don't want to do this. He's like, it's a
Bit
bit late.
late now.
So after getting everything sorted in the morning, starting on that promenade and ACDC start, I was like, oh my God, the heart rate just spiked. I was like, right, this is it. Like, something that was on
Game
the
on.
burner for so long and took such a long time to for me to get there,
Mm-hmm.
or what felt like it was such a long time for me to get there. Um, and I finally get into the water and I get into my rhythm, and I could just remember the first time of Craigavon Lakes and the girls teaching me to swim, and all I could think of was, do you know Fatboy Slim, Praise You?
Yeah.
That just came into my head, and I just had that song in repeat all day, and it's just like, I really have come a long, long way.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
Trying to get through that swim was okay at the start because everybody was, as they say, when you get in, there's a lot of rough and tumble, and you get hit every road and direction. And
Mm-hmm.
normally, when I had started swimming, I can remember a fella accidentally hit me in the pool, and I just got out, and I might have only done about 500 meters, and I just got out. Whereas this was Ironman day, and this was the start of the swim, and I was getting hit left, right, and center, and I was like, nope, we're not freaking out. We're going to keep going, and
Yep.
that's the only thing that you can do on Ironman day. When you finally get to the pinnacle of what you wanted. So happy to get out of that swim. I was like, oh my God, I finally actually done the swim, and I know by no means fast. I think I done it like an hour 35.
Nothing
For
wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. For somebody that couldn't swim beforehand, I was happy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's some achievement to go from not swimming to completing an Ironman swim, regardless. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because even when we done it in Estra that morning, I think it was like 2 hours in the lock. But
Aye.
yourself, the buoyancy, and then maybe with that tide, it did bring me on a bit more than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, happy to get out of that, and then obviously the next bit, get on the bike, and the roads around Cork aren't exactly smooth as you would know yourself.
Aye.
You had a bit rougher with the rain, I suppose, and the weather. I had 30, I think it was the max heat was like 32 degrees that day.
Christ of Almighty. I
I,
can't think of anything worse than trying to do it in that heat.
I had picked Ireland because I had figured in my head, A, lovely to do my first Ironman on home turf. B, I know the weather.
Aye. It was just an extraordinary day in all departments for you then, on that particular August morning or whatever.
Yeah, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally prepared. And when you do all your training with a bike jacket and having stuff in your pocket and all that, we had went down a few days earlier, and I was like, Stephen, I'm gonna be really. I struggle in the heat, even when I'm running. I am terrible in the heat. I'm like spinach. I just wilt.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm gonna have to go jacket free. So then I was trying to make sure that I had completely packed my drop bag and the wee bag on the top bar, and just
Yeah.
prayed for the best for it. But the heat that day, there was no breeze, so warm. The tarmac, even if there was the slightest of breeze, all you could smell was the tarmac, and I was like, oh my god. And on the first loop, it was okay-ish, I suppose, for trying to get round it, because that was you just settling in, I guess, and you were trying to make sure that you got a lot of fuel in because you needed to replace all that you'd lost from the swim.
Uh-huh.
And that you weren't leaving it too late to get that fuel. There was a fuel strategy in place, and that was me. I was like, right, try and get everything in here. And I was so happy that the support from all the people that live in Youghal and the surrounding areas were fantastic.
Unbelievable support, yeah.
They were out with their hoses, and they had them tied to trees and tied to fence posts, and just people out in general cheering you on. And I was like, this is something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unbelievable. So happy to see everybody that could come out and support. And some of the wee signs, we went cycling past a primary school. I don't know if you had the same or noticed the same on your day if you went past it. There is wee signs up, and one of them just made me laugh. Was like, smile if you peed in your wetsuit.
That's right, aye.
I don't know why it got me laughing. Here's me cycling, just laughing.
My favourite, well, a couple of signs I remember, it was never trust a fart, and all toenails go to heaven or something like that too. So,
oh, the smile if you peed in the wetsuit was definitely my personal favourite of them all.
yeah.
And then coming towards the end of the first loop, I was like, right, Windmill Hill, come at me. And the day before, the year that we raced it, the 70.3ers went the day before. And when I was racking my bike the day before the race, I was talking to a few of them that done it, and the people that I thought could do it didn't.
Okay.
They either come off their bike, or they just give up, or they just found it too tough. And I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so hard. I was like, Jesus. And we had driven up it a few days beforehand, and we had walked up it, and I was like, right. So I knew how steep it was, I knew how long it was. I knew that in my head I was going to just focus on that area at the top. And I can remember racking my bike, and one of the fellas from the club, and my mummy laughs this, because my mummy will tell anybody, if you tell me I can't do something, you're gonna say that I can.
Uh-huh. I'll show you.
Yeah, this fella from the club, he was trying to be really positive, and I'm only 5 foot, and I still take the hand out of him for doing this to me. He came over and he was like talking me through everything about what he found on the day. And he done this real condescending thing, unintentionally, but I still laugh at it myself, but he'd unintentionally done it. He put his hands on his knees and came down to my level and said, I would advise you to get off the bike. I don't think, in my opinion, I advise you to get off the bike for Windmill.
Okay.
I was just looking at
Red rag bull type thing going on in between the ears at this point.
Don't tell me I can't do something, and don't come down to me at my 5 foot height and tell me I can't do something. I was like, I am going to show you. And I was like, thanks very much for that advice. I'll take that on board.
Locked and loaded.
So coming round back into Youghal, and I knew it was coming. And you go up, you turn up that way, right, because you can
Mm-hmm.
see the runners out, and then you turn up right, and then you're left, and then all the locals are shouting, and they're like, "This is it, come on, get into your easy gear. Don't even try to go down. Just everybody's shouting the same thing, the same advice. Get into your gear now." And I was like, right. And then you come along, you're in the gear, and you just turn up right, and that's it. It's in front of you, and the crowds on Windmill Hill. I don't even know if you can put it into words, but
It's difficult to put into words, isn't it? But it's nearly like a wee mini festival of its own. You know, it's just absolutely heaving, and the music and the pump and the noise from the crowd and the expectation and the
the
it's a
noise
magical
are
thing.
insane,
I
isn't it?
I milked it because I walked it, so
After
I can remember. I can remember. I
both times.
wasn't focusing on the bike.
Uh, you've let me down. I can't believe you didn't.
Oh no, no. My strategy was always I wasn't even going to attempt it. I had always said that firstly my bike wouldn't be the strong. It wouldn't be strong enough. And I hadn't done enough hill work to be perfectly honest. So I decided rather than try it and come off the bike and hurt myself and injure myself, that I would just dismount and walk up it. And I felt, I just thought that's what my strategy was. So I just stuck to my plan. I didn't want to risk 6 or 7 months of training to come off the bike trying to impress a crowd of people that I'd never met. So that's
Or
what I did.
well, in my head, it was I have to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
And during my training, Helen Perry had took me out cycling around the hills of County Down. If you want hills, she'll take you around them, and she'll definitely improve your hill abilities. She
Uh-huh.
took me up. There's Sleeve Crib. You can cycle up over it, and I can remember cycling up over Sleeve Crib. It was that windy and that hard. I was still clipped in, and my watch paused, like auto pause, because I wasn't moving fast enough on
Christ almighty.
cycling up over a mountain. But so that was in my head that this could not possibly be any worse than cycling over Sleeve Crib.
Uh-huh.
So I turned up around it, and I looked up, and the crowds just went nuts. And I was like, focus, head down. And I started paddling, and I was like, no, I need to stand. Just get up out of the saddle. And I just looked up the crowd, and in front of me, these two cyclists just bounced off each other and separated just as I came through. Just perfect timing. They bounced off each other, separated out. The crowds kind of split a bit because they just went either direction, and I just went straight up the middle.
Deadly.
And I was buzzing like a bust fridge, to put it politely. When I got to the top, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, I got up that. And the
and,
crowds,
and,
you can
and a
still
wee throwback to your man going, in your face.
in your face. Yes. I would safely say I was buzzing the whole way around. You come down that steep decline again, and then away back out in the route, and it all goes quiet again so fast.
Aye,
As
that's
you
right.
turn left, it's really strange and surreal how quickly quiet it goes. It's like, whoa, that just happened and it's over already. I want to go again.
Yeah.
But yep, back out in the route, and the heat. The second lap was unbelievable. I started to really, really struggle in the heat, and I can remember the boys at one of the water stops. He came over to me and was like, "Oh, do you want water around you?" And they dropped two. It must have been the water bottles that they hadn't. They were handing out to people. It must have been
Mm-hmm.
one that weren't being used and had been sitting out in the sun. And he threw them around me, and they were roasting. I near passed out, and I was like, "Oh God, I get through this second lap." So I scaled it way back and just tiddled along, kept everything, kept trying to get the fluids on board. And I'm not going to lie, second time round when I got to Windmill, I had already made up my mind that I needed to save my legs for the run. I wasn't doing it twice. Once was enough for me. I wanted to
Uh-huh.
prove to myself that I could.
Yeah,
And so proud of myself that I did.
absolutely.
Second time round, I was starting to think about my running. And I was like, right, proper strategy here again. Think about it properly. And as you said, you don't want to be coming off the bike and absolutely wrecking yourself after months of training. So got around that second lap okay. It was fine. really, really hot, and off the bike into T2, topped up the sun cream, and out onto the run. And Mark Thompson from the club, he was running, and Niall Quinn was running. So they were out in front of me, but I had happened to just time it perfectly with Mark Thompson. He was on his second lap, I think, or possibly his third. He's a very strong cyclist, so he was well ahead of me. But I had just come out onto the run at the perfect time, and he was like, "This is where the water stops are. This is where the ice stops are. This is where, you know, your food." What?
Oh,
Like,
very good. Yeah.
so every stop, every fueling station wasn't the same,
Yeah.
and like, this heat is terrible. I am not coping. And he was like, "Don't worry." He goes, "It's 3 stops away," or whatever it was, and he's like, "You just need to focus." So that was grand. Got to run a bit with him, and the first loop was horrible because it was so warm. And then you're just like, right, focus, game plan on. The crowds when you go down that wee part in the town is really good, but very close together. Like the running, I don't know if you find it the same. It felt like you were really on top of other runners. I would have liked more.
Yeah. The road's quite narrow, and then as you're running out and you're meeting the guys running back, there's only a few cones between you. There's not much space there, really.
Yeah, so if you're trying to overtake anybody in round that, is it a clock tower? When you,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that sort of archway.
I find it really a bit. I was like, Jesus, this is a wee bit claustrophobic. But then when you get out onto that road, it's not as bad, and you're like, right, okay,
Yeah.
start running, and you remember your training, and you're just like, right. And I can remember before you turn off left to go up into that wee estate where there was just party central all day.
Yeah.
we come down there, and I could see on the tables the pile of bands, and you have to collect your 4 bands, one for each loop, and there was red, green, blue, yellow, and I seen the yellow, and it no longer was about the miles. It was colours to me. It was just like, I just need 4 colours.
Yeah.
So in my head, 4 colours is easier to think of than doing 22 mile. Like 22, that number just seemed massive. Whereas I was like, no,
That's right.
I just need to get 4 colours. So you turn up into that wee estate where they had live music, and they had a DJ, and they had the hoses out, and everything was great crack in there.
Aye.
I don't know. Again, don't know if you had the same experience. Sorry if you didn't. But
Not too much of a crowd in that way estate, but the people that lived in there were out all day, and I remember actually commenting on a couple of them saying, "Fair play to yous, he's been out here all day and he's haven't let up." And the guy said, "And we'll be here till the last man passes the house." So
what a legend.
deadly, unbelievable support, like phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Where I actually, even on the bike course, I should have actually said as well, one of the furthest out villages when we came through, I didn't actually realise until after how little women were actually doing the Ironman that day. Because when we came back through the second time, there was a group of girls, and all I could hear was them screaming, "There's a girl, there's a girl." And they start just cheering on, "Go on, you Blade, go on, you girl. You're one of the few girls." And I was like, what? And I didn't understand what it meant. And like that, I was just like, right, happy days, like just cheer me on. But just to see a random group of women just being like, "Go on, you Blade." And then when I looked up after, I realised like there was only a handful of women doing the Ironman that year. So I was like, right, one of the few crazies.
Brilliant.
But out in the run, just had to collect them bands. And at this stage, because you were getting to, it was out and backs, you could get to see the other people. So I bumped into a really, I don't know if you know him actually, he keeps it very low key, but he's actually a double Ironman. He's up your
No
direction.
idea who that could be.
No, I should maybe introduce you to him sometime, because he'd be good for a podcast, I think.
What?
But I got bumping into him, and again, the community support around runners and triathletes and stuff is just amazing, because you get, even though they're in pain, they're cheering you on, because he knew it was my first. And he was just like, go on, you blade you, and just having the chats and making sure that everything was going well for him at the time and stuff. And I was like, right, I'm not doing too bad. Like, there's Shane, he's still going, he's feeling the pain. Talking to other ones as well, just like, right, I'm not the only one suffering. It's
No,
okay.
definitely not.
You're just collecting the colours. And then after such a hot day, you could hear the thunder and lightning starting. And I was like, oh God, what a drastic change. And the thunder just started. And then I was counting down every time there was a flash. I was counting down and I was like, it's getting closer. It's getting closer. And I was doing another lap. And then I was like, oh my God, it's getting closer. And then it felt like I was no longer doing an Ironman. I was racing the heavens above. I was like, I just want to get in before I get drowned, because that would be a terrible end to a day, wouldn't it? You start off with AC/DC thunder, and then it ends with actual
Literally,
thunder.
unbelievable.
God's
Yeah.
up there, like, oh, AC/DC thunder, hold my beer.
Yeah. Class.
So finished. Like, I was coming into I can remember the last lap, and I got my green band, and I was like, right, that's it. This is. I am coming for the yellow. I had in my head home time, and that last lap in the Ironman is like such a victory lap, because you're obviously wearing your Tri Limits jersey. I'm sure it's the same with Oma as well. When you're out in a race and you see other clubs, if you see Down, if you see Lisburn, if you see any other local clubs, you're cheering them on because you've seen them at numerous other races. And I can remember there was a group of Lisburn Tri fellas. They were just at the last, before you turn left to the finish line, they were there, and before the end of that race they had found out my name and they were cheering me on as well. And I was just like, I don't even know you lads, but I know you're Lisburn, so thanks very much for the support. Yeah. But I was like coming down for that last lap, and they were like, come on Susan, it's home time. And I was like, oh please, you're making me emotional. So that was it. I was like, it is home time. I am finishing this off. I am 10k away. And you go down through the crowds and you give all the high fives, and you're just telling everybody that's it, it's home time. And it's such an amazing feeling to be like, right, I am heading home. And you turn and you go back out to Wee Party Central one last time, and you give all your high fives out and your thanks very much for the water, for the oranges, for the fact that they had kept their hoses running all day. And I lifted my yellow band and I was like, that's it. Time to put the hammers down, because the lightning was still coming closer. The thunder was coming closer, and I was like, oh my God. My last 5k was just getting darker and darker. The humidity was building, and I just picked up the pace, and I was like, right, let's just do this. And I came sprinting down back into y'all, and the heart rate was just through the roof. And then finally you get to see what you've worked for years for, and you get to see that red carpet, and you're like, oh my God, I am finally on the red carpet. And it just goes by so quick.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is it. This is the red carpet. And then there's John Murphy at the end of the finish line, and you're just like waiting to hear those words. And then I was so happy that it was her, that it was like just hearing her voice going, Susan O'Neill, you are an Ironman. And I was like, oh my God. And just as I came across the finish line, the heavens opened and everybody at the finish line scattered. I really raced the rain back, and I ran into the tent, and I was like, I've actually just finished that.
Yep. An epic end to what was an epic adventure and an epic day. Thunder, lightning and everything. Yeah. Unbelievable. That's some story that way, isn't it?
It's very funny that you come across that finish line and you get such a mix of emotions, because you don't know whether to be crying, to be... I had it in my head the whole day. I was like, I can't cry coming across the finish line because I'm not a pretty crier.
It's going to be a big high resolution photograph of me here. I need to make sure I'm not blubbering mess.
Exactly. I'm sure you had the same problem.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very emotional chap.
But that they need to make that red carpet just about a mile longer if they could.
Hi.
um,
Miguel would be fit to put the carpet down too, I'm sure.
yeah, we should maybe make friends with him and get a longer red carpet. But
Aye.
I actually see on that last lap when I was heading out, he was heading in, and I can remember he was coming up, and he knew that I wasn't too far behind me or behind him. Sorry, and he was just like, I was just like, oh, this is it. We're going for the last lap, and he was finishing, so he was a full 10k ahead of me because he's such a strong swimmer and stuff compared to me.
Yeah.
So he was ahead of me, and he was like, so delighted for you, first Ironman, and he gave me my finish line hug there, even though I hadn't actually got to the finish line, and I was like, beers are on you because you're in first.
Happy days. Good
um,
stuff.
so just having someone local just cheering you on and then getting to that finish line, and that whole array of every emotion possible, and then that's it. It's you're over the finish line. You get to see your partner, you get to see your friends, you get to see your club mates, and the whole heavens opened up, and then everybody scatters, and it's like, all right, okay, well that's that over.
Class.
So you go into the tent, and yourself, you try and have that wee moment to yourself where you're like, Jesus, that all just happened. Everything that day is now over. Um, and then you see the people that you were racing with and some of your friends, and you're just like, all right, so we're just all Ironman now.
Yep. We've got our new sense of identity here that we now have to
Yeah,
uphold.
exactly. So for years I was. It's funny because until that day, I always laughed because until that day, I always had ran further than I cycled. And it dawned on me then when I was sitting in the tent, I was then disappointed because I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to do another 24 hour and try and run 113 miles.
Just to beat the bike. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts of what do I do next? And you're only just finished. Like you're literally just getting the best pizza ever, the best beer ever, because they're so well earned. And you're sitting down and you're like, I am officially an Ironman. Nobody can take that away from me. But then you're like, what do I do now?
Oh, that's great. Hey, Susan, that's a if that doesn't inspire someone to enter an Ironman race, I don't know what will. I was reliving all them memories with you, and the hairs in the back of my neck standing up too as you were describing all the things there, as bringing it all back. I don't know what or how we can finish or how we can top that. I
It,
suppose we can just
it's probably just,
congratulations for what you have done. Hey, from coming from those days of being held by the hand in the swimming pool to turning up in Youghal Town and taking on the Atlantic, and then chasing chasing thunderstorms home to the finish line in mad heat. Like
yeah.
it just goes to show there's no two races the same. You know what I mean? It's
No, there really is.
unbelievable.
When I started my fitness journey or health journey, I always made the joke because I worked in the bar. I never done couch to 5k. I done bar stool to marathon. So I don't know how you done bar stool to Ironman.
Maybe.
When I started, a lot of people didn't believe when I was going to do a marathon. I can remember being like, I genuinely remember one fella, and I again red flag to a bull. This fella just laughed in my face and goes, "You're not going to run a marathon." And I was like, "Hold my beer." So
Yeah,
I always have to have that way something that makes me want to do something. And I think when you're surrounded by a good club, good friends, and you have a goal and a target, nothing's impossible. And that,
absolutely.
like what Ironman tells you, nothing is impossible. And I know I always had a few different, like going from ultras. The ultra distance is, I probably will go back to ultras before I go back to an Ironman just because I miss them. But I will definitely do another Ironman.
Yeah,
I just don't know which one yet. Um, I'll do another ultra again, but again, it's having that something and having that belief in yourself that I never had an athletic background, and I'm now with Keeperlit, an athletic club. So there's a lot of athletics I'm going to learn now too. So if other
Hmm.
wee smaller goals, I think if you are willing to learn different techniques, different styles of doing stuff, and setting yourself a target, and you're willing to listen to people, like anything is possible. And I have, if anybody's listened to this the whole way through, they're going to realize that I actually still don't have a clue.
No, I wouldn't say that. My take on Susan O'Neill is she's a doll that when she puts her mind to it, there's nothing going to get in her way. Quite simply, and when you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything, and I firmly believe that to be true. Um, and that's the message really from
Yeah,
us all. Any of us that does any sports or overcomes any hurdles or just chipping away, as I refer to it, trying to get a wee bit better and a wee bit stronger and a wee bit quicker or whatever it is. But
just
there's nothing we can't achieve if we put our mind to it.
yeah, just don't give up on yourself. I think, even if your goals seem unrealistic, if you get the right club around you and you get the right people around you, I'm sure you're the same. When you entered for your first Ironman, there was a lot of information from your fellow tri club members how to make
Yeah,
it happen.
yeah.
There's a wealth of information out there. There really is, and I do firmly believe that if you want something, if you join a club like a tri club, if you're or a runner, join a run club. That is a great way to start. I knew zero, and I still don't know a lot, but I learn a lot from other people's experiences.
Hmm.
And I
Well,
think
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people will learn a lot about themselves and a lot about um, going for gold and pushing yourself, having listened to this podcast. So I just want to thank you, Susan, for taking the time out to share your story and to inspire the rest of us with, and I suppose just wish you all the very best for your epic mountain trail coming up. When's that happening again? Just remind me.
so. The ultra is in October, and fingers crossed, training goes well. This is probably the biggest goal that I've done since the Ironman. 50k through the Mourne Mountains, over all the Mourne Mountains. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a long day out, but I think we know by now. I'm not afraid of a long day out.
No, I think you'll smash that, no problem. The next time I'll likely to see you, if I don't see you up in Loch Macquarie swimming, I'll be looking forward to seeing your happy little face,
I
roaring and
fully
shouting abuse at
expect.
me as I run past or cycle past you in the Tri Limit 70.3 next month.
Oh yes, you're
Um,
just first then. Fabulous.
aye, that's it. And then we'll see you then at Try the Lock,
Are you
the
racing by the
OMA
lot,
event.
or
I'm doing it too. Yeah. So
all right? So you don't get to shout abuse back. Excellent. That
no,
means I shout extra abuse at you on.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll race you. I'll race you in Loch Macquarie.
There'll not be much racing, but on the bright side, at least we'll have really cool socks to wear.
Exactly. Susan, thank you very much. Take care and all the best for the future.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.